Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam. Today I want to talk about why spirituality is not a life hack. And there's a few thoughts that come to mind when it comes to this topic. Some of them have to do with what I see in the YouTube sphere, and others have to do with my personal experience around the whole thing. And much of what I see in the YouTube sphere, and perhaps it speaks about the YouTube bubble that I live in, has to do with YouTubers and channels and scientists, in fact, who have amassed quite an audience by offering ways to improve our life on a practical level. And some of them have to do with health advice, whether it's keto diet, fasting, for example, or diet to reduce our the inflammation in our bodies, things of that kind, to health hacks for prolonging our life. You know, there seems to be some sort of longevity thing going on around there as of late. Or how to slow aging down, as in how to extend the period of our life in which we're healthy. Other hacks have to do with our finances, right? How to, reduce, I don't know, the number of hours that we work per week or the number of years until you can get retired, that kind of stuff. To dating advice, you name it, right? So money, love, and health are your is the practical trifecta around which all these hacks revolve. And of course, it was inevitable that things like meditation and spirituality started to sort of seep into all these areas, and how it has become fashionable to suggest that mindfulness is a way in which the practical areas of our life can be improved. Now, I'm not here to deny that. Mindfulness can improve our love life, because mindfulness can improve just about anything. Anything to which we apply mindfulness is improved on a practical level uh, because of the very quality of what it does to our system. It clarifies things, and by doing that, it makes them operate in a more harmonious way, in essence, in a more clear, equanimous, focused, and harmonious way. Clarity, focus, and equanimity are qualities that improve anything you apply them to, and they are traits that make us better at whatever we engage in general. So there's something to be said about that, right? We're definitely not here to deny that, and yet I'd be a proponent of the notion that apart from the practical benefits that mindfulness has, or rather, despite the practical benefits that it has, and also overlooking the rather positive fact that these life hack channels and proponents have done a great job at making mindfulness more popular, that by that same token, that popularizing or that democratizing of mindfulness has, in a sense, cheapened spirituality. It has reduced it down to a technique or a series of techniques aimed at hacking or improving the practical areas of our life. And I am bundling the emotional part of life into that category of the practical, right? For most people, improving on the emotional side of life, or for a lot of people, that can already be way beyond the practical, right? That can be really super high level stuff, depending on what level we're at. That's a valid stage to go through, right? But there's a couple of things that I believe we risk overlooking. One of them is how difficult the real spiritual endeavor can be. And number two, how far it can actually take us if we actually become an adept, or if we actually, take it seriously and make it into a serious endeavor. So let's start with how difficult it can actually be. Um, I used to think that there was a way to hack my way to enlightenment. And I've tried a number of things, right? I've tried retreats, I've tried hallucinogens, and I've also tried to employ a sort of forceful type of meditation to gain amazing focusing powers, for example, or to try and observe emotions to death, in essence, right? To try to stare them down and make them go away, and all those kind of things. And through that bumbling series of attempts, I have come to learn that force and speed are antithetical to the spiritual endeavor eventually. And now, that's not to say that being earnest and disciplined and applying willpower to get to the cushion, if it comes to meditation or breath work, for example, or to do the kind of practices like embodiment or whatever, that there's willpower needed to engage in the practices. And it is also not to say that by applying the correct methods, speed won't be gained, right? So it's not that wanting to get there is wrong, or that the right kind of enthusiasm is wrong. But if we are trying to shortcut our way to the finish line, or if we're trying to force our way to the finish line, we're going to find that we hit very painful walls, and we get completely stuck or sidetracked, or that we start to completely bypass the very thing that we're supposed to face. And that is simply the nature of the beast. It is a polar opposite of the kind of speed and force that we can imprint on efforts in the practical level of life, right? For example, if you're running a business, for example, or if you're trying to, train for a certain sports event, then it could be that you can really push it, and that you can find all these hacks and things or whatnot. Now, to be sure, there's a price to be paid for those as well, as many of my old injuries will attest when I was doing endurance sports. But things can be forced on the outside, or that the use of force is it's a valid move in many circumstances on the outside. There's always a price to be paid, but the results would be there. In spirituality, we're going to find that quite the opposite is true, and that in fact, every time we try to find a shortcut, we are in essence trying to reject the now as it is, right? That's the wrong. So that there is a correct desire to improve things, but it is not by escaping the way things are at the moment. So in that sense, a hack or a shortcut is a kind of escape, and therefore is not going to work. And when it comes to force, it's the same thing. Force is the opposite of what we're trying to learn. We're trying to learn acceptance of the way things are. So both speed and force are the opposite. And there's a couple of I don't know, little quips or frames from which to see this that would clarify. One of them is to say that the means cannot be different from the ends, right? So that division of means and ends is a mental division that doesn't really exist. Therefore, the quality of the practice and the quality of mind that we bring into the practice cannot be different from the quality of mind that we want to cultivate at the end of the day. The awakened individual is utterly at peace in the now and not in a rush to get anywhere. So if those are not the qualities that we're employing in the practice, how is the practice ever going to deliver on those qualities? It cannot, right? Now, we go through a little bit of, like I describe my journey as a bumbling one, and it's usually the case that is so, because our mind simply cannot understand what peace, patience, equanimity, and acceptance even feel like. So we need to sometimes force things and go back and forth and do a lot of wiggling around before those qualities start to be understood and then applied. So there's a lot of wiggle room, and the only question is whether we will learn this through hard knocks or try to, really put our effort into settling into the now and being receptive as opposed to being forceful and speedy in our efforts. So the means cannot be different than the ends is one way to try to understand this and remember this. And the other one is a couple of phrases that remind me of this topic, which I've learned in two different books. One of them is about a Zen swords master and a guy who wants to learn really fast. And the swords master answer is, someone in such a rush to get results cannot possibly learn quickly, right? So that implies that the rush to get results is a blockage in the way to mastery of swordsmanship. And another one, which I believe I saw in Course of Miracles, but don't quote me on that, I read it recently, was a phrase that said that only infinite patience delivers immediate results. And that also struck a chord in me. And so I thought I would share those for whatever it's worth, right? So when it comes to considering spirituality a hack, we have to contend with the notion that force and speed are the very antithesis of what we're trying to achieve. And then whenever we try those, it's not going to work. The task at hand, the thing that we're facing is, to our personality, completely unsurmountable. We are trying to do a kind of one-upmanship trick on our very self, to quote Alan Watts. And that's all but impossible, as a matter of fact. And if we start to take spirituality seriously, and we begin to steady our mind, enhance our embodiment, regulate our nervous system, and begin to clarify our shadow and our emotionality, we're going to come across the fact that the endeavor is tremendously difficult. It is considered, in fact, to be the most difficult thing a person can do in this lifetime. So that cannot possibly be a hack. And anyone offering, give me 5 minutes and I'll give you non-duality, or disappear for a month and come back a completely changed person, it's just complete nonsense, to be honest, right? Or anyone who offers you a platitude such as nothing is real, there's nothing to do, could easily be a bypass to all these things. Some people get awakened and fully enlightened in a single go. It doesn't happen often, and it's often also not pretty, because it can create psychosis, depersonalization, and all kinds of strange things. But that's to say that, having sort of addressed the notion that force and speed are not the way to cultivate these things, so a hack is out of the question, the sheer difficulty of the task is the other one. For most people, this is just a grueling and long endeavor. And that just seems to be the nature of the beast, based on the way that we are wired as human beings. I have tried, and I have sometimes succeeded at speeding up the process in terms of shadow work and things of that kind. And I can tell you, there is such thing as chewing more than you can swallow. and you're not going to be happy when you enter those spaces, because you are in essence confronting affects in your mind and your body that are beyond your capacity to tolerate, and it takes a while to then catch your bearings again. So I would just not recommend it. It's really not worth it. Um, Last but not least, the topic of how far you can actually go. So hacks don't typically take you that far. Hacks are there to offer quick, practical point solutions for very specific things, right? It makes me think of Dropbox. You guys remember when Dropbox came out? Dropbox was an application that did one thing really, really well, and that was the sharing of large files, right? Now that's a hack. That's the equivalent of a hack to me. But spirituality is encompassing the entire system, your entire humanity, including all your memories, your psychological makeup, your physiological and genetic inheritance, your whole life history, every experience you've ever had, and your entire ecosystem of environment and your social connections. How could you possibly hack that? There are techniques that are very, very specific at addressing that systematically over time, and you can be very, very successful in doing that, but that's as hacky as it gets. It still takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, sincerity, going through pain and the rest of it to get this done. And if you do all that over a period of time, the results that you can reach are way, way beyond anything that a dating coach or a life extension or keto coach or a psychologist, for that matter, can ever remotely offer you. It's in a completely different domain. Non-duality, to enter the non-dual space, the no self, the immersive experience of merging into the now. Those are not things that you hack, and they are not things that are on offer or even considered by the people who use spirituality as a hack to enhance practical areas of life. That's not what this is. It's not what it remotely is. And to reduce it to that level is, I think, it's I think it doesn't come from a bad place. I'll say that much. And it might be a necessary step. I'll give him that as well. I'll extend as many olive branches are necessary for the people who are proposing to do meditation or these kind of things to improve life on a practical level. But I can guarantee you, anyone who doesn't give you in parallel to that the disclaimer that if you continue to properly do spiritual practices, you will reach something that is altogether indescribable. People who do that have simply not touched that space and are completely out of their depths when they're talking about mindfulness. I don't care if they have a mindfulness degree extended by the whatever institute or what. It doesn't matter. It takes a minute talking to anyone to understand whether they are a true adept and really knowledgeable about what this is about. And what I see out there kind of tells me that they don't. And as I said, I extend all the necessary olive branches because I think that we are collectively all getting smarter about this, and we're going in the right direction, if nothing else. But I thought I'd share this for whatever is worth, sharing that spirituality is not a hack, because force and speed don't really work in that endeavor, because it is something that takes a very long time, and it is extremely difficult, potentially the most difficult thing that we can do, or the most difficult endeavor that we can go into. And because it fails to acknowledge what the path is actually about and what can actually deliver. And that should not be overlooked by any means, because it's the one thing that will keep you going when things get very, very squirrely, which they almost inevitably do. So there you have it. That's today's video. I'm actually quite curious to hear what you guys make of it, as usual. And if you think that the content is worth liking, sharing, and subscribing, that helps the channel. I'm trying to get to 3,000 subscribers sometime, maybe this year. And thanks for listening so far. I'll be back with more videos soon. Cheerio, and bye-bye.